Well, hello and thank you for joining me for another Alex on Tech and IT Wire video interview. I'm here with Chris Griffith of chrisgriffith.com. He's also a contributor to IT Wire, but most well known for being a senior reporter at the Australian in the tech section for many, many years. Chris, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Alex. It's been actually really interesting coming here. It's Tech in Gov is a conference which is an interface between the technology community and what's going on in government in the public service. So we have a lot of public servants here who attend this event.
Yeah, and of course AI has been having top billing, as you would expect.
Yes, certainly. We had AI and we've had a fair bit on cybersecurity, and they've both been really interesting. I think what I've seen, having come to this conference several years now, is with AI a bit of a movement away from the discussion that AI can do everything.
Yeah.
What we are going to
Let's get real.
Yeah, what we're going to do is have agents that take over whole processes of government, see a lot of people unemployed, and that's going to be the new reality. But while we still, of course, are seeing people lose jobs in the tech industry, and particularly coders of all people, we're seeing a bit of an interest in counting the cost of how much AI is going to cost, not just in development, but ongoing. For example, there was a session put on around token costs.
Yeah.
Now, I know a bit about this.
Huge issue.
Yeah. I know a bit about this because I kind of part-time develop a few AI systems called RAG systems, which is about developing bespoke applications. We're using your own data, but using public models. And part of the art of doing this is when you put the logic in as how the chatbot is going to act, and incidentally it is the same when we're talking about workflows with new AI type business software. You don't want to just say AI do it, you want to use automation but not AI as much as you can to save the cost of AI references, because you can save a client thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars a month because you're not doing all these calls to AI. And we're seeing now in the public service concern that unless you write the code efficiently to use normal processes instead of AI every step of the way, it's going to be incredibly expensive. It could be the difference between, for an agent, paying $100,000 a month and $10,000 a month if you do it correctly. And I'm saying things like, for example, you could ask AI to, if the cost is more than, you could write it out more than $10,000, do this or that in words. It might be something that you could just do in code. If the cost is greater than 10,000, do X, do Y. You do the latter because you're saving money on tokens. The other aspect is you don't need for some agents to have the most state-of-the-art versions of AI because the token cost is much, much more expensive.
It's astronomical for the newest ones.
If you're doing just a normal customer service chatbot or just doing basic financial analysis or that, you don't need the same AI as a research scientist who's looking at quantum physics, for example. And so it's horses for courses. And these are the kind of recommendations that are coming out. And sitting in some of the workshop groups that were there, the public servants were saying, well, look, if I'm trying to develop this, I can do this, and this, but I need AI specifically for that. At the conference, Workato made a big play about this tokenization issue, and people were really receptive to it. So instead of bean counters in government, we're going to see token counters as becoming, the new kind of discussion point in the public service.
I've heard a lot about this as well. There was famously a big company that people had guessed what its identity was, but they spent $500 million in token costs in a month because they just went wild. And plenty of other people have said, look, it's now costing us more in tokens than it was costing us in people. I thought AI was going to save us money. And that's why we have these different strengths of AI, because some of and also the focus from Anthropic and Claude on the newest models has all been about, we can be more efficient with tokens. I mean, everyone's getting the message that AI is great, but if it bankrupts you, there's no point.
Well, yeah, I mean, AI is doing what we've seen before in the tech industry, and that is they lure you into a situation of dependency by making it free. And then when you're hooked, it goes right up. And I even see that for developers, like when I'm developing, I can use some of these platforms for Nord. But if I use them a bit more, then the cost goes up in the hundreds of dollars a month. So cost, I think, is going to be a real tempering factor when it comes to AI. So that was my big take out of AI. There's been a lot of discussions around sovereign risk and data sovereignty and all those types of things.
Which we've been hearing about the past couple of years. And we've gotten much better at that now.
Yes, I mean, there's discussion at government level. The government are taking sovereignty more seriously. And of course, we saw the Prime Minister's speech recently, which
the Office of AI
looked at Office of AI, regulation, standards. My big concern there is we can put all the regulation and standards down there, but enforcement of this, when you've got the big tech companies, are we going to get any better enforcement with AI as we have with, indeed, tax with some of the big companies and organisations? We struggle to really rein in the tax workarounds that some of these companies deal in. And that's what my worry is with AI, that we're going to struggle with our great new regulatory standards framework that Albanese talked about.
Well, I mean, governments set up rules and regulations and companies find their way around it.
That's exactly right. But cybersecurity...
another huge issue.
Cybersecurity is another huge issue there. It's an evergreen, if you like, here. But now we have the idea of cybersecurity in the hands of scammers who understand AI, and indeed coming up quantum computing as well. And if they have those tools, we're in a situation where not only is it hard to deal with cybersecurity risks and intrusions when they happen, but you may not even understand or contemplate or even think what those intrusions may be like. So in other words, you're walking around in a dark room without being able to see the walls. And we saw representatives of the Prime Minister's Department, the Parliamentary Services, talking about them trying to get ready for cyber attacks at that level, even doing simulations, trying to predict what might happen, but no one really has a good solution, not even HP, who are here talking about the same thing, talking about the poisoning, not only of data, but the poisoning of AI agents themselves by the ability to get into the instruction set that you give an AI agent and change that for it to do all sorts of damage to data. We're not quite there yet, but that's the sort of thing that they're really concerned about, that we can actually turn AI agents around and be absolutely enemies of the companies that employ them as well.
I mean, we're going to need AI agents that are good and on our side and unhacked to protect us from the ones that are malicious. A lot of what this conference is about, tech in gov, it's the intersection of business and government. We can't escape government. We might not appreciate it, we might think it overtaxes us and overregulates, but it's there, and it is a huge part of society. And the issues that I heard you speaking about, that these politicians and the government workers are grappling with, I mean, they're the issues that are really going to determine how safe we are as a people, how safe our data is, how efficiently we're using AI to make better decisions. It's a non-stop cat and mouse game of trying to be ahead. And of course, the public sector has to catch up to the private sector, which normally does things more efficiently. So this is a really good meeting point. And
to discuss these issues. Of course, there's other things that go on here. There's a big showroom here with companies, various software companies, vendors trying to do business with government and on all sorts of levels, whether it's software in development or indeed the regulatory process itself.
Yeah.
That's a big part of this conference as well. But getting back to cybersecurity, I thought CSIRO, one of their spokespeople not just long ago, dropped a real bombshell about biometrics that we rely on, and said a biometric signal is no longer independent proof of identity. We rely on biometrics so much, but what they're saying is the only real way to protect your identity and to detect fake IDs is going to be a multi-layered approach of a combination of biometrics and several others. Now we have two-factor authentication on websites and so on, but it's going to be a more complex process.
Multi-factor authentication. I mean, it just has to be.
Yeah. They also said it's becoming much harder to be sure a video is not a deep fake.
Yeah.
So even detecting deep fakes is going to be harder and harder. And then if people depend on the internet as their source of truth, then we're going to see a lot of confusion in society with deep fakes going forward.
It's going to make trusting AI to tell us whether what we're seeing is AI generated or not even more crucial.
Absolutely. So, you know, we're also at the stage, of course, of the media bargaining code being renegotiated, and one of the things that concerns me, of course, if we don't have those bargaining codes, however imperfect that is, to rely on social media with AI as well, with deepfakes, is going to create a lot of confusion in society if it hasn't already done.
Well,
that.
I mean, we see how much AI slop is out there, and with a little bit of tweaking, that can be much less slop and much more convincing fakery. So it's a pivotal time for us to get this right.
We had a number of different speakers talking about AI. Michelle McGuinness from who's our leading cybersecurity person in the country, basically, was talking about how there is an increased level of cooperation between all the levels of government and partnerships being developed to try and have a unified response to, you know, the threats to our infrastructure and defence that is brought by AI and scammers and hackers and so on. Then there's the threats within, like shadow AI.
Yes.
And that is in the public service, you've got people using AI regularly, but it's all authorised use of it, and some members of that team or whatever might decide to use AI, not thinking that what they're doing is not being authorised, and actually compromises the information within a government department, either going out or allows hackers to get in. And this is called shadow AI, and the problem is that you may not know for a long time that it's occurred. In fact, one issue is that AI might be implemented, and an agent might be implemented, then after some time there's no realisation that that agent is still operating there, and who knows what could be happening with that as well.
Yeah. Well, we've heard about Okta and others who are trying to identify every AI agent that's in a business or government, and in their initial searches there are dozens that are not sanctioned by the organisation, so they get shut down. And yes, they talk about the same thing. Something that's been there for a while, if it's not shut down, then what is
they
it
can't
doing
shut
in
it
the
down if
background?
they don't even know it's there.
Exactly,
and they don't know what it's necessarily up to, and they may not even realise the damage or the threat of security that represents.
And so it's good to see that all those things are definitely being worked on. It makes a world of difference. So was there anything else that you wanted to quickly highlight?
Yeah, there were a couple other things. Department of Defence talked about the further implementation of AI in defence. They talked about a little bit about the Ghost Bat and Ghost Shark. The Ghost Bat is very expensive, in the $1 million drones that can go a couple of thousand or even more kilometres in autonomously doing surveillance across the country. The Ghost Shark is a little autonomous submarine that can be underwater for more than 2 weeks.
Wow.
Given the size of our country, probably what we need more than in many countries is these very long extended ranges on both the aircraft, the drone aircraft and the drone undersea crafts as well, and they've kind of been working on that. But it's, it's a really difficult job because AI is developing so quickly. But I think we're seeing that apart from all the hullabaloo around our submarines, that the government has been talking seriously about really building up a stockpile of drones, and they'll be a very important part of our defence going forward.
Yeah, well, Ukraine has shown us how important drones are, and I mean, the Ukrainians actually bombed some Iranian ship because the Iranians were helping the Russians. So Australia is in desperate need of these. We need them autonomous, and we need them to be secured so they can't be taken over by a nation state and turned against us.
I also went to a bit of a discussion with the Digital Atlas of Australia group, who actually do a lot of the checking of government information, whether it's ABS or mapping information, to check whether it's fit and proper to be used either in the public domain or within the government itself. They also do checking on ABS data, which is very topical because we've got the census about to hit in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, I've already received my envelope.
So we often wonder, what happens between when you and I fill out our census form and suddenly there's these government releases around, so many people are doing this, that or the other thing or whatever. Well, it's people like this in the engine room doing all this work and...
the number crunching.
Yeah, the number crunching, and it was great to talk to them today.
Yeah.
They've not. I asked about whether they were implementing AI. It seems AI would be absolutely, an obvious thing to do with all this government information. At this time, they basically said, "Look, we're looking at it, but we haven't taken that big step yet to actually implement it."
They haven't needed it for 100 years.
They haven't needed it for 100 years. They wouldn't need it going forward, but I imagine the amount of information we can get out and the depth of that information, particularly when you've got satellite information included and maps and so forth, and the ability for AI to analyse visual data like that, we will get a heap of information in future. Because I think you wouldn't have to bet much to realise that AI is going to be used in that. In those analyses once they're comfortable to use it.
That's right. Well, with that volume of data, I mean, AI can slice and dice even more quickly than traditional methods. So I mean, we really can harness and this granular data in ways that was just not humanly possible before without taking way too much time.
Yeah, that's right. And look, thank you so much for this. I think it's nice to end this discussion on that positive note of yours, because there's been so much concern, and governance is still a big concern. But I am more confident, coming back to what we talked about at the performance, that what we're seeing is much more granular look at where to use AI as a tool in whole workflows. And there's still to be manual parts of that workflow because it's more efficient, it costs a lot less. And automation is used where it's needed, and AI is used where it really can make a difference. And that's a big attitude change from 2 years ago when we first started talking about agentic AI.
Yeah, and of course AI is so much more powerful now than it was a couple of years ago.
And it's going to be frighteningly more powerful as we go along. Maybe the science fiction films will come true.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Chris Griffith, it's been so great to talk to you on the close of day one of Tech and Gov 2026. I look forward to catching up with you tomorrow, and I'll see you throughout the year.
Absolutely. Nice to talk with you, Alex.
Thank you. See ya.